It was a look, it was a touch, it was a nod, it was a smile, something that made me feel like I feel it too. Everything's going to be okay.
Before we talk about routines or roles, I want to start with the smallest thing that saved us: connection in tiny doses. Welcome back to Rooted Exchange. I'm really glad you're here. I'm sitting down with my lovely husband, Joel, and we're talking about something that reshaped our lives in ways that we didn't really fully understand until we were already living it, and maybe still don't fully understand. This is a conversation about what happens inside a relationship when two people who have been partners for a really long time become parents for the very first time. It's not advice, it's not a how-to. It's just a little truth telling about what this transition felt like for both of us individually and together as a couple. So let's go back. Before diapers, before midnight wake ups, who were we?
Yeah. Boy, it seems impossible to think of anything that happened before 2.5 years ago and you being pregnant. But it was mostly just having the ability to do whatever you want whenever you wanted. There was a lot of spontaneity. We had a lot of fun. We were always doing stuff. We were really fun at, we loved to sit around and do nothing and watch a lot of movies and TV and eat a lot of chocolate and ice cream and cuddle. But we were adventurers, and we were adventuring the world, trying to figure out what both of us wanted to do. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Is there something that sticks out around what it felt like emotionally day to day before having a baby?
It feels like, when I try to think about it as a whole, it feels like life has slowed down, even though it's so much more sped up. It feels like, life is simple and peaceful. And I guess, it was a different peace when we were sitting on the couch watching movies together with no baby, but it's a different kind of peace. It's just everything seems calm, just a different kind of calm.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to reflect back on, just those movie nights before having a baby, and also just being able to feel like you had endless time. And now you have to be really intentional with our time to
Yes.
squeeze in movie nights.
Yes.
Is there anything that you feel like you or I or we took for granted in that season before having Finnegan?
We took everything for granted. We without making it sound like he's a burden on us. He obviously is the opposite of a burden, but yeah, I mean, we took advantage of everything. We took advantage of, hey, we got to go somewhere now. You get in the car and you go. No shoes, no coats, no tantrums, no grabbing a water bottle. You just get in the car and you just go. So yeah, you take advantage of everything. It's kind of like, somebody who's dying. You want to live every moment like it's going to be your last, but it's impossible until you're in that position, until you've been there. You can try to live like that, but you just can't until your life is that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's strange how you don't really realize the chapter you're in until it's closing, or have the perspective like that.
Right.
It's a very real reality in transitioning to parenthood. And then there's that day when the chapter flips and you don't get to read ahead. Let's talk a little bit about the day Fanny was born and what you remember the most from that day, or what the feeling and watching everything happen.
Yeah, it brings back to Mary a lot, because the day of was obviously high stress. Obviously for you and me, very different stress levels or kinds of stress, but stress nonetheless. I remember having the doula there, having Mary there was awesome. Being able to go to the hospital and have her be the first person there and be like, you just go park the car. I'm going to take her in and get her put in, get her into your room. You bring up all the bags and everything that you're going to need. So I loved that. And then I just, I remember being ready. Like I was ready for you to be done having to be pregnant. And I was ready to take care of a baby. I've been ready to take care of a baby for a long time. I've been wanting to be a parent for a long time. So the day was so exciting for me because I've been dreaming of the moment that I get to hold my own baby in my arms for so long that when it actually happened, uh, it didn't seem real for a while, you know, and, I think it was probably the second night I woke up at like 3 a.m. Um, and you were asleep and I held him for about an hour or so. But I remember being like, I'm so excited. I'm so ready. And hooray, we did it. You did it.
Well, let's back up to the fear and the stress that you were just talking about on the day of me giving birth. What
Yes.
was all of that about?
Fear of just unknowing, worrying about you, and making sure you were going to be okay. We're surrounded by a team of professionals. So I wasn't really worried about baby. He was sitting how he was supposed to be sitting. And we knew that you were feeling positive and good. And so they said the two things is baby sitting well and mommy's mood or, your attitude are like the two biggest things when it's birthdays. And you were great the entire morning. You woke up and your water broke and you were calm the entire day. We did all of our calming exercises. And I think most of the fear is just, is my wife going to be okay when this happens? Do we switch from the plan that we had, birth plan? We were really big on this is our plan. We're going to stick to the plan. I was worried about having to get buck with one of the nurses or doctors that was going to be like, no, we're not doing this plan. But that, having Mary there to back me up, if I had to do that, which, me, obviously I would have 100% been like, no, we're doing it like this. And if you don't like it, then we'll get in a doctor. Didn't come to that ever. It
Yeah.
wasn't even close to that. Everything was great. Everybody was great. And everybody was really nice and did exactly what we wanted. It was an amazing day.
I mean, it's really refreshing to hear you to say it like that. I think we hear a lot of dads say it was really scary and felt helpless and not being able to know what to do. And I think we did ourselves a big service by having our birth doula be there with us and preparing us in the months leading up to birth. That I don't think, I mean, I certainly wasn't thinking about it in the moment, but worrying about the things that I was worrying about prior to going into labor.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think back and I'm like, what would it have been like without Mary? It would have been it would have been scarier.
Yeah.
And, when when we were taking little breaks and me and Mary rubbing your feet or your hands or your head or in your claws, I thought it would be awful having a different person there and having it not be just us, and just us doing it and taking on the world and figuring it out. But it was wonderful having her there. She was amazing.
For context, for all of the listeners, we had a very big disagreement on whether or not we would hire a doula or not.
Yeah.
For the very pure reason that he wanted it to be just us and I wanted extra support. So having a doula, somebody who was experienced and had the expertise to be that support for us in that day, I would do it again tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of my biggest worries about the entire thing was, not that it wasn't going to be personal, but just that we've done everything our entire relationship on our own.
Yeah.
We've never asked for anybody for anything. No one's ever given us anything. We've had to figure it out every step of the way. And I'm prideful and I'm a man. But really, like when you go back and think about it, like you don't even remember Mary being there. Like she was invisible and then she was like in your way. You can't see anything or can't touch anything because she's right there doing it all for you already. But it's like she's still like not there.
For me, it felt like you two were one person, and I had my eyes closed the entire time, so I really didn't know who was touching me at any moment in time. But yeah, I could hear you and I could hear her, and it really felt like you guys were one team.
Yeah. I mean, 6 months of her going through how everything was going to go with us. She would come to our house and we'd have these hour-long meetings about what to expect on this happens, if this happens, if this happens. Really, all she was doing was just talking to me and being like, the day of, Joel, we got to be like this. She was like, wax on, wax off in me,
Yeah. She was the Mr. Miyagi of
Yeah.
Julius.
Yeah. Yeah. And she got me ready. She did.
Yeah. Was there a moment that you realized that things were going to look different? I think it really started to sink in that we were taking this baby home.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I've been ready for this for a long time. I've been wanting to be a dad for a long time. It was wonderful being able to take him home and put him in all the stuff we bought him and get to finally use all the stuff that was collecting dust for months that we had in the nursery ready to go. Like it was, it was awesome. I was prepared, and I think you were prepared too. I think we did a great job planning everything. And, when we came home, we hit the ground with the wheels already going, and we cruised, having people come over and help, kind of get routines down and stuff like that. I've worked every shift under the sun, you know, just like Kenny Chesney's song. So sleep, you know, I've always been good with that. I think you handled it really well. You've always been somebody that's needed 8 hours. And, you know, I don't think you give yourself enough credit how you handled the first couple weeks, because I'm nothing. I don't do anything. You have to you have to carry all the burden. Whether I get up in the middle of the night and put him back to sleep, I'm back in bed in 5 minutes, but when you have to breastfeed and pump and do all that stuff, it was, really wasn't that much for me to do besides just hold baby and tell you you're doing great.
I mean, maybe was that difficult for you in that time to
Oh yeah. If you feel helpless.
try to be supportive in a moment where, we chose to exclusively breastfeed, so we weren't doing formula or bottles at that
Mm.
time. And, your role, yeah, you could get up with me, and you did. And that was really helpful for me to feel like, I wasn't alone in the middle of the night. Uh, but physically, it just was a little more taxing on me.
I mean, formula would have made things easier. Yeah. But I don't know, that's not what you, and that's not what we decided on. And that's not what we planned on. We planned on you breastfeeding if it was going to work. And we struggled out of the gate pretty bad. I don't know how it's gone for other people, but it didn't seem like it went very well for us. But just like everything else, we figured it out, man. We
Yeah.
figured it out. You figured it out. We went to the doctor. We got some tips. We tried this. We tried that. Some things worked. Some things didn't. Some things were a blessing, and some things were annoying. So
Yeah. Yeah. And exclusively breastfeeding when we have a low milk supply was really difficult. It was difficult for me mentally. It was difficult for me physically, especially when I went back to work and trying to just navigate around all of the things, the schedules and the routines that we had on top of my work was just never ending. In that season of breastfeeding, I really felt like there was no time at all in the world. There was pumping and taking care
yeah,
of baby, and there was nothing in between.
yeah, it was a constant thing that you had to think about. I mean, we didn't go 30 minutes without thinking about pumping or breast milk or fridge bags or freezing it. Not 1 hour went by. I mean, we woke up thinking about, do we got enough in the fridge? Does she need to do more? And you obviously had to think about it way more than I did. It was out of sight, out of mind for me a little bit, but I hated to have to be, sometimes I had to go in there and be like, you got to pump. Sorry.
Yeah.
I hate telling you that, but if we want to keep going, you gotta keep going. You're doing great.
Yeah.
Blah,
And
blah,
that
blah.
wasn't something that you demanded of me. That was really something that had my goal was to breastfeed for
Yep.
2
2
years.
years.
And
Yeah.
then I shortened that down to 18 months, and we got there. And I feel very proud of that. But it was a very difficult journey to get to 18 months. And I needed your support, including the hard truths in that moment. And every day I felt like quitting, even though that's not what I wanted. It was just so
Yeah.
physically taxing on me. And that became very mentally taxing as well.
Yeah. I think that, I think that people who can pump 6 ounces in 4 minutes, where you were pumping 6 ounces in 2 days. Uh, I think it has its struggles with that too. Because then you're like, I'm wasting all this milk because there's no baby that's going to be, if you're pumping as much as you were and you were getting 6 ounces every time like other people were, uh, we'd have to, you'd be one of those people selling it online to CrossFitters or, doing, or just wasting it. And it was like, cause in our house, it was gold and you didn't drop it. If you spilled a cup of breast milk on the counter, nobody talked to each other for 10 hours because we were so depressed about all the milk we just lost. Because it was gold. It was everything that we needed. And, we were trying to get to the 2 years as much as we could. And I think what you did getting to 18 months using the freezer bags and, actual breastfeeding, was, nothing short of a miracle, honestly. I mean, it took a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, those first few weeks and first few months, honestly, were just such a blur, especially because of the added activities with pumping round the clock. But I guess, was there something outside of breastfeeding that was harder than you expected?
I guess like medical things was probably the worst, worrying about cutting his fingernails and the nose thing cause he got so many runny noses when he was a baby. You forget now, you don't even remember. He had a fever twice. He had the ear infection. The medical things I wasn't prepared for. Those were scary. Those made me worry, but I can't even remember how many times I just lied on the floor in his room while he was sleeping and sick, just knowing he felt terrible, but he was such a trooper. But I just remember being terrified so many times because I was worried about him. I don't know, whatever, not breathing or, not waking up, or these vomits. It's just, he's just going to choke on it and die. So yeah, I mean, those were the things that I wasn't really prepared for. I wasn't prepared for the medical things, the things I guess you can't really prepare for, until you're in it. You can act like you are a parent that has a sick child, but until you're a parent that has a sick child, it is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Was there a moment in time, or has there been a moment where you realized or noticed that, us having a baby has evolved us into different people?
Oh, you more than me, I think. I think you have evolved as a person quite a lot. You have such a higher burden than I do as the father, um, in that first year. But I think that you were worried that you weren't going to be strong enough, or you weren't going to be able to take certain aspects of motherhood. And I think from my point of view, I think you just breezed right through it. I really do. I think you realized that you were stronger than you were. You were a better mom than you thought you were going to be. Yeah. I mean, it was fun. It was fun. I would do it again in a heartbeat. I just think that maybe you weren't sure if you can do it. And then I think you realized that you were pretty good at it. You were pretty good with the struggle. You may look back and maybe not feel that way, but from my eyes, you know, you had to grind every day. Every single day you had to grind. And we complained sometimes and sometimes we didn't, but you grinded every day for 18 months. That's who can do that? Not everybody can do that.
Yeah.
People would switch. People would go to formula. People would find a different way. They would change because it was too hard. You
Yeah.
know.
Well, it's not just the breast milk. There was a lot of things. For a lot of many reasons, I didn't want to have a child or think I ever would have a child. And just thinking about the family that I grew up in and the family that you grew up in, the things that we didn't want to bring with us as part of bringing a human into this world, I had the realization that we do get to choose those things, but it's also hard to live it in real life with a baby in your arms, not to feel all those things.
Yeah, it was definitely a change in pace for you. you loosened up, but you've come back to it a little bit since he's gotten bigger. Um, Finding routines that you put him in that help you do all the things that you still need to do on a daily basis too, right? Like you having to do grocery shopping, having to go to the gym, getting all your work done, dropping him off at school, all those things you've planned it in a way that have got back to your little how you like things. And there's times for us to he's getting older and not that we're loosening up, but we can kind of start going back to normal life and bringing him along with us.
Yeah. Yeah, my rigidity has certainly loosened up since having a baby. It forces you to, right? Like, you don't have the luxury of being able to say, this is what my day is going to look like. Our day changes on a dime with his needs. And so, being able to be flexible with that, but it does. It changes you.
It's just something that like you're sitting there and you're watching everything that's happening and you are trying to figure out how am I going to do this every single day for the next so days and you kind of just have like moments of panic and you just need the other person to just be like no 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 no, no. We're good and that goes both ways. I mean remember how many times I would panic and just touch. It was a nod. It was a smile.
A little
Um,
reassurance in
it
some
just,
way.
yeah, something that made me feel like I feel it too. Everything's going to be okay. Let's big breath. Let's move on.
It's difficult. You don't always know what's happening or how to explain what's happening inside of you. And so being able to have those moments of connection, even when you don't know if it's going to be okay. I struggled with postpartum depression a lot. And I know, like, you like to tell people that you don't really think I struggled, but I think you saw that I was struggling. And what was that like to be there?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't want it to come off like I'm saying you're not struggling. We struggled. We struggled a lot. I guess it was more of just when I look back on it, it was worth the struggle. It's not as bad when you're in it. When you're in it, it's like nothing has ever been worse than this. Nothing will ever compare to this. But then it did. Then it got better. Then something happened. Then there was a moment of, him pulling himself up in his little crate and doing little pull up, chin up things. And then you're like, this is amazing. I want to do this all the time. I want to do this every day. And I think that helps with a lot of maybe the depressed feelings that you were having, but you did a lot of it in the dark. I think there was a lot that you didn't share with me. I think there was a lot that I didn't try to find out. Maybe
Yeah.
because I didn't want to know.
I mean, I think it's hard to watch someone struggle, especially in those moments where there's a lot of joy in having a new baby in the house. And those milestones are just really precious. But
Yeah.
also, it is hard. I do think that I struggled a lot. Every day felt really, really dark. And not just for, a couple weeks, it was months on end. And it was hard to feel like that because I felt like I wasn't grateful or I wasn't appreciative of having a healthy baby in the house. And so
Yeah.
I think about the moments that were really helpful for me, and you created space for me to go to the gym and not be a mom for an hour a day. But I mean, uh, if I didn't have those little spaces to go on the hikes that I wanted to go to, I don't know if I honestly would have ever come out of that funk.
Yeah. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and there was probably a lot that that I wasn't aware of, uh, mostly because I was just so focused on Finn. I forgot about my needs. I forgot about your needs, and we kind of just focused on his needs. And I guess I can remember you being sad, and I can remember me telling you just go through the next day. Just get through the next day. Just do the next day. I mean, how many times did I tell you that? Just get through the next day and things will change because there's going to be there almost it was inevitable that every other day something was going to happen that was going to bring you some sort of joy surrounding him. Um, that just kind of makes it all worth it. It's tiny little moments packed in, 23 hours and 30 minutes of not so greatness and 30 minutes of greatness that makes it feel like it was a breeze.
Yeah. If there's a new dad who's listening and his wife is struggling, you know, maybe feeling scared or unsure or not sure how to support their
Mm,
spouse in that moment.
I'm not the guy to go to.
You got to think of a piece of advice.
I, well,
What would you want him to know about
well,
supporting their partner through postpartum?
personal experience only. Um, Helping out and doing too much is not the answer. Trying to do everything so that you don't have to do anything is not the answer. That's the opposite way you should do. You want to relieve stress from you, but that's not always just I'll feed baby, I'll take baby so you can go to the gym, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll do the laundry, I'll do the dishes, I'll do the cleaning, I'll do all this stuff, I'll change the sheets in the bed, I'll do all these things. That those are quick things that don't really relieve anything. They're like, thank you for doing that. But put baby down and hold my hand and tell me I'm doing a good job. Reassure me that our life isn't going to be a bottomless pit forever. And I'm really not the guy to go to about this. I didn't do a great job of it myself, but
If you were giving yourself advice,
I think that
when
would be the advice. That would be the advice. It would be focus on mommy as your wife and not mommy as mommy.
Mm,
Because I'm the guy. I'm the guy that just does everything. I'll just do it all so that you don't have to do anything, which was nice for you, but then you just kind of sat in your depression with nothing to do.
yeah, I
Besides pump,
mean,
besides pump and think about how awful your life is because
I
you
was,
can't pump anything and your son doesn't want to breastfeed and, you're tired and your brain's not thinking right because you haven't had enough sleep to think normally. And, we haven't had sex in 2 months. And, oh, so now we're basically not even married. And, we're like roommates now. And like, there's a bunch of terrible things that you think, but when I just take baby and go, you just sit in it.
yeah.
But when I take baby and I hold baby and you're there next to me and, we can do things together, I think it brings us together and it kind of, so that's what I would have done differently. If it was me, I would have done that differently.
Yeah.
I would have still done a lot. I just,
Reflecting back yeah, I mean, like, I was so appreciative in those moments, but I also was left to my own devices. I do think
yeah,
that I my hands were busy when I had my son.
yeah.
You don't get to think about all the dark things as much when you're actively taking care of a
Yeah,
baby's
you don't have time
needs.
to think. You don't have time to think about it. Yeah,
And I think you did take a lot of time to try to create that space for me. And for us, I don't think that was necessarily the right move. We did the best we could. And I think
yeah,
you were an amazing partner. And I just want you to know that. But yeah, also just like having those moments to come back and connect with each other instead of feeling more isolated was certainly one of the harder seasons that we've had to go through.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
Of course,
There's a
I
lot.
would.
There's a lot of things that we would
Well,
change.
we know now things differently, what we would do.
Yeah, the grass is always greener.
It is always greener. And I say that jokingly because every baby is different. And I guarantee if
Hey,
we had another one, it would look nothing like the first one.
I want everybody to know that with all this being said, our son was amazing.
Our son is
He
amazing.
rarely cried. He was always happy. He got sick a lot, but it was quick
But
sick.
not really sick. Yeah. I mean, like,
Yeah, it was just like running. He always had a runny nose. He always had goops in his eyes. He always had something in his ears or blah, blah, blah. But, he ate, he slept, he was happy. I mean, I don't know if he was, if I knew every kid in history and he was like towards the bottom of how awful it was, I wouldn't have never known because it feels like looking back on it now, like we got blessed with a pretty good kid.
Yeah. Thinking about, you just talked about that disconnection, when things felt tense or we were, really drifting apart in those early months and honestly the first year of his life, what helped you the most as a dad to bring us to come together?
Really, all you needed was a sense of calmness and a sense of not me telling you that everything was going to be okay, but just kind of showing you that everything is okay.
When did you first feel like a dad?
Mm. Maybe the day you brought Peanut home.
Oh, pre baby. You felt like a dad before we had Finnegan.
Oh yeah, two wiener dogs equals one infant, basically. So
No, it doesn't.
it's basically the same.
Don't listen to
Cashew and Peanut together,
him.
that's like 90% Finnegan. Yeah, when they were really small and babyish, and yeah.
When did you first feel like a dad when our son was born?
Honestly, I'm gonna be honest. I felt like a dad. When we went home and told your parents, I was like, I'm basically already a dad. He doesn't need to be here for me to be a dad. I'm already a dad. But I've felt like a dad since you've been pregnant.
Hmm.
I was ready, and when he came out, it was like instead of him being in your tummy and talking to him and singing to him and telling him jokes, he was just there in real life, and I was doing the same thing. He just wasn't inside of you anymore. That's
Yeah.
all it was.
What are you most proud of about the father that you are becoming and evolving into every day?
If there's one in particular that I had to pinpoint, um, I tend to stay pretty calm when he's not calm. But being able to stay calm when they're calm, I think is one of the most important things so far that we've learned over all anything else. Don't give them screens. Don't let them eat this. This is bad for them. This is good for them. You remaining calm when they're not calm, that's how you teach them safety and thoughtfulness and kindness and all these things, because me getting upset does absolutely nothing. It does nothing. It doesn't, I don't even know if it makes it worse. It just does nothing. They are looking for the reaction. And when you stay calm, everybody else stays calm. So if I had to take one thing, it would be that I've done a pretty good job of that.
What has being a dad taught you about yourself?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one.
That's okay.
Um, it's taught me everything. It's taught me a lot. I don't know. There's something different every day. No day is the same.
Yeah. For all the mommies out there who are first time parents and trying to support their partners, is there one piece of advice or one piece of insight that you would want to share from our experience that was helpful and how I can communicate with you or how I
Um,
could have better supported you?
I tell everybody, be patient with your partner.
Hmm.
Be as patient as you possibly can. You're going to want to rip their heads off and throw it down the hallway a lot. So remembering that everything's going to be okay, and every single thing that happens that sucks is not the worst thing in the world. It's just something that sucked, and trying to remain patient and calm.
Right. If there was one thing I could have done differently in the first 6 months of his life, what would
Mm.
it have been?
Be nicer to yourself. Simple as that. You're too hard on yourself.
I want to close this out and say, with the question is, what do you hope our son learns about love from watching us?
I want him to know that mommy and daddy loved him very much, and he was the best thing that ever happened to us. Um, but I want him to know that love is a lot of things. Love comes in so many different ways. Love comes in being able to be direct. Love comes in a way of being something that you don't want to be so that you can learn what you want to be. I guess I just would want him to know that we did the best we could, and that I hope he remembers how happy we were. Yeah. And how happy hopefully how happy we continue to be.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing this with me, and thank you for having these conversations. It's honestly, it's more difficult to think about the past couple of years, even though they feel so fresh and so far away at the same time. I love the family that we're building because it's not perfect. And to everyone listening, thank you for being here. You know, my hope with Rooted Exchange is that you always feel less alone in the quiet parts of your life, and hope that shedding this light on our experience helps you feel a little more connected to your own story. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you, sweetheart, for being a part of this.
Thanks for including me.